All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something pretty wild. It's a highly unconventional piece of philosophical writing by an author named Xu Feng, titled Everything is Inevitable, Only I Roam Free. Basically, it's a roadmap for finding inner peace right in the middle of all the unpredictability of modern life. If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed by the 24/7 cycle of bad news or your own personal setbacks, well, this framework offers a completely different perspective on how to live. We're going to look closely at how this source material suggests we can achieve what it calls ultimate detachment.
So let me ask you this. How should you react to a tsunami, a world war, or a broken heart? For most of us, those events represent the absolute peak of human tragedy, right? They bring up panic, deep grief, existential dread. But according to the text we're exploring today, treating these events as emergencies is actually our first huge mistake. The author proposes a radical shift in perspective, one where the most terrifying disasters in life are met with the exact same emotional response as a minor, daily inconvenience. Let's look at the core concept that makes this extreme reaction, or really lack of reaction, possible.
This all hinges on one core idea: inevitability, or in Chinese, bidan. Now, the text isn't using inevitability as some dry scientific law of physics. Rather, it's used as a profound psychological tool. The author writes that knowing everything is inevitable allows us to just follow the flow and let things happen naturally. By fully accepting that whatever happens was always going to happen, you supposedly free yourself from the mess of emotional ties, ignorance, and even the fear of death itself. The imagery used here is super vivid. It says this mindset allows you to be like an eagle soaring across the blue sky or a dragon swimming in the rolling seas. It claims you can remain so calm that even with a blade held right to your neck, you wouldn't even blink.
And if you can actually pull this off, the ultimate promise of the author's philosophy is massive. If you truly internalize this concept of inevitability, you stop treating life like a high-stakes emergency room and start experiencing it as a joyful, carefree game. The text literally states, "Life is a peaceful paradise where birds sing and flowers bloom everywhere." It suggests that whether disaster strikes or fortune arrives, it's all just part of life's game. Nothing is truly urgent. With a serene heart, the author promises, it feels as though we are always wandering in heavenly realms. But, how does one actually achieve this? Well, the author uses some incredibly dark humor to get the point across. Which brings us to our next section, chaos as a comedy. Let's see how the author actively reframes these terrifying global and personal events. Get ready for the sheer extreme of this comparison. The text literally advises that when an earthquake strikes, a tsunami crashes, or a world war erupts, you should treat it like the neighbor's child letting out a loud fart. Just think about that for a second. The author is intentionally diminishing massive, catastrophic global disasters that ruin millions of lives into a passing, slightly annoying, but ultimately harmless sound. By equating world-ending chaos to a crude bodily function, the philosophy is attempting to completely strip away our conditioned panic.
And it keeps going. Take a train derailment, a surging flood, or a spreading pandemic like bird flu. The text-prescribed reaction is to just see it as nature putting on a show for us. Again, the author commands us to become completely detached spectators. Instead of being a victim or a terrified participant, you're supposed to sit back in the audience and just watch the cinematic spectacle of destruction unfold, totally unbothered.
Now, this detachment extends deeply into the realm of society and politics, too. Corrupt officials, police abuse, someone being wrongly imprisoned, or someone hitting rock bottom and committing suicide. These are real, profound societal injustices. Yet the text frames these simply as a subplot in a novel. It's absolutely crucial to note here that we're impartially unpacking the source material. The author isn't taking a political stance against these issues, but rather advocating for total emotional neutrality. By viewing deep human struggles and systemic failures as just fictional plot points in a book you happen to be reading, the philosophy claims you protect your own inner peace from the world's endless drama.
Okay, but what happens when the chaos isn't global or societal, but deeply personal? The text has an answer for that too. If your spouse runs off with someone else, if a mistress appears, or if your lover turns their back and leaves you cold, the author says you should view it as releasing a bird from a cage. And the rationale provided is incredibly blunt. If the bird is gone, hey, you no longer have to worry about feeding it or giving it water. It completely reframes intimate betrayal not as a heartbreaking loss, but as a sudden release from the heavy burden of relationship maintenance.
Then we get to what's probably the hardest pill to swallow: family. When parents pass away, which the text acknowledges feels like the world is literally collapsing, or when children face terrible misfortune, the prescribed mindset is to imagine it merely as a dark cloud passing overhead. It's just weather. It's temporary. It casts a shadow for a moment, and then the wind blows it away. The profound grief of family tragedy is reduced to a passing meteorological event. So, after hitting us with all of these shocking metaphors, the author poses this pivotal question. What else is there that cannot be let go? What else needs to be worried about? I mean, if you can treat a world war like a joke, your partner's betrayal like a freed pet, and your parents' death like a cloudy day, what possible earthly worry could still have a hold on you? This question marks a shift in the text, moving us from these wild earthly metaphors toward a highly structured set of rules for living this way. Let's look at how that actually works practically. Here is Releasing Worldly Attachments, the 8 Principles. The first 4 principles basically cover our human timeline from birth through adulthood. For birth, the rule is no complaining. You face it with gratitude if it's smooth and let it take its course if it's hard. For parents, they are viewed as an inevitable fate. Regardless of who they are or their temper, the text says heaven gave them to you and your only job is to show respect. Relationships, spouses, kids, friends, they come and go naturally. Don't restrict them when they arrive and don't try to lock them down when they leave. And for worldly success, the 4th principle warns not to be bound by wealth. Treat life like a dream, because when you wake up, it is all empty anyway. Which brings us directly into the final stages of the philosophy, embracing the ultimate end. Here's where we hit the concepts of absolute loss. Principle 5 states that losing your job or wealth shouldn't be mourned. It should be celebrated as total liberation and peace. Principle 6 goes even bigger. If your country, your political party, or your religion collapses, the text frames this as shedding old clothes and stepping into true freedom. Without those shackles, you merge with nature. Principle 7 tackles death, framing it simply as closing one door so another can open, a new journey to be faced calmly. And finally, Principle 8 brings it all back to daily life, urging us to simply seek joy. Actually, before we wrap up, I have to highlight this darkly comedic list from that 7th principle regarding death. The author lists the ways you might die. You could starve, freeze, die in a crash, be killed, die of old age, sickness, or even die of joy and laughter. The core point here is absolute certainty. Because death is the one inescapable guarantee for all of us, the specific method doesn't matter one bit. Anxiously worrying about the how is completely useless. The text advises us to sit steady in the fishing boat regardless of the wind and waves.
And that leads us to the final section, the path to joy.
See, it's not about being miserable or numb. The 8th and final principle commands us to seek daily joy, to really feel life without regrets, and to treat the entire human experience as a temporary game or a fleeting dream. It leaves us with a really profound paradox to think about. By entirely giving up our attachments to money, our families, our nations, and even our own survival, by viewing life's most terrifying chaos as nothing more than a passing cloud or a noisy neighbor, do we actually unlock the ability to be truly happy? Is treating life's inevitable tragedies as a mere dream actually the ultimate secret to achieving true joy and freedom? It's a radical thought to leave you with today, and for sure one that challenges everything we're ever taught about holding on to the things we love.